Good day. My name is Zechariah Akimpelu. So welcome to lesson 4, Advanced Scanning Techniques with Python Part 2. Lesson 4, Advanced Scanning Techniques with Python Part 2. So in this module, the objective of this module is to learn the fundamental of process creation, subprocessing, module for directory navigation, process listing, introduction to socket programming, and SCAPI module on Python. So let's start with the directory navigation. The last class, we talked about the various tooling that can be used. Tooling like the Avesta, tooling like Sublist3, R, and so many other tooling. We also talk about on how to write a customly made Python for your enumeration and for the scanning of your target host or target application. So today we will dive a little bit further. So we are going to talk about on how to use Python to do directory traversing, how to also get the listing of files and their detailed information. We are also going to discuss on how to create and delete directories and files. And we also, all this discussion will come along with sample scripting and demonstration on how to do this in a array hacking environment. So let's start with the directory navigation. Getting the correct working directory with OS. So we're going to, I will introduce you to the use of the OS command. Before you can use any OS command, first and foremost, start with the import OS. Because you can't do a directory navigation without you importing the OS command. So for you to import the OS command, you type the command import OS, or at the initial stage of your program, you import the module, OS module. Because without you importing the OS module, you'll not be able to achieve this. So you can try this both on our host machine, which is a Windows 10, or on our kernel environment. If you have Ubuntu Linux, you can also try that on your Ubuntu, but make sure that you install Python and you make sure that you install all the necessary modules. So this we demonstrated the previous classes. So I can leverage on my Windows. So my Windows box, let me navigate to my Windows machine. I have installed Python, Python 2.7.18. I also have module Python 3 as well. So for you to get your hands dirty on the Python scripting, before you try your scripting, you can also try that in the interactive shell. So in this lesson, we are going to do a lot of interactive shell, Python interactive shell, before we even write a script to automate our work. So first and foremost, for you to import your OS module, you type import OS. So if you import the module, if you are on interactive shell, the command might not be executed immediately, so you can make sure that you type in the return key maybe 2 times or more than that. So if I want to get the current working directories, I will use the get CWD functions. So os dot get CWD. So this displays our current working directories. So you can also try that with your Kali environment and see what you arrive at, right? Let me do it. Get query working directory. You can see it's very straightforward. So that's how to navigate through your directory on your Python shell. So the rest of this, at times you might want to carry out a transportation and you gain a shell and you realize that there is a Python installed on your target machine, or even if you gain a shell from your machine, you can begin to run your Python script and all of that. So that's why I do some of my demonstration on Python shell, because as you go along the course, you will see some demonstration whereby you require to gain a shell. So if you gain a shell, it can be a normal shell. You can shift from your shell. You can script. You can navigate to your Python shell. So that's for that. So you use get CWD. So the CWD stands for current working directories. So if you want to make a directories, you use mkdir functions, just like your normal command line functions. For example, if I want to create a directory called Kali here, I just type os mkdir. Oh, sorry, let me create a directory maybe with my let's say Lake of Willis College, right? So for me to be sure whether this directory have been rated, it's either two things. It's either I switch over to my normal command prompt and do an ls, do a directory listing. So when I did the directory listing, so you can see Lake dash Willis. So in the example displayed on a slide, I tried that on my Windows box. You can also try that on your Windows box. So you just do OS mkdir. So the first class work, if you can make a directory, so that means that you can also delete a directory. So can you try, can you figure out what function you will use to delete a directory? And do that. I give you 5 minutes for you to do that before we proceed. So what you do, use mkdir functions to create your own directory. After creating it, you can delete it and also navigate, maybe do an ls if you are using Kali or another variant of Linux, or you can use dir if you are using Windows. I believe you have it done by now. All right. So if you are done, I will also introduce us to another directory. We call it, if you want to do a listing of your directory, you use list dir functions. The reason why we are treating this, because you need to be very comfortable with the directory structure. Let's presume that you've been able you run an exploitation on a application or on a host that is vulnerable to directory transversal. And so you should be able to know how to leverage on your scripting language. So because in this class, we will be leveraging on Python. So to do the directory listing. So that's the relevance of it. So you need to understand all this. So for you to get the directory listing, you use a function called listdir function. Listdir function. So let's try that. I can try that on my Kali. You do OS list dir. If I want to list everything on my current directories, I use dots. Sorry, I think it should be a double quote, right? Okay, I made a mistake. I didn't put T there. So you do OS list dir for you to do a listing of all the directories. You can see these are the list of all the directories and files on my current directory. So if I want to do that on the root directory, I will put this. This will display all the listing of directory on my root directories. I can also try the same thing on my Windows. This to display the listing of all the files or directory on my current directories. If I want to do that on my root directory, I put a backslash. As you can see, this displayed. So that's how to do some enumeration, leveraging your Python. You can do that on Python interactive shell. And for you to be very comfortable with Python, you also need to also try all of this thing on interactive shell. So that if you get it right on interactive shell, you can now start doing your scripting. This is very, very important. So next, we'll be talking about making direct. Okay, I think we've discussed about how to make directories right. Yes. Now, for us to know the difference between in a file and directory, even though some file has an extension name, it's not all the file that has an extension name. So you can write this simple script. You can use this simple function as I display. I just say for item in OS list dir. For example, if I want to list all the dir in my current directory, I just say if there's a function for you to know if a particular item is a file, use this file. If a particular item is directory, you use path.isdir function. For you to know if a particular item is a file, you use path.isFile function. So let's quickly try that. I think I have let's just quickly open up the script, right? Where do I think I put the script somewhere. Okay, I think. So this is the function. This is a simple script. I will explain this script again. You know, last time we were introduced to Python and we talked about the for how to make use of the for loop statement and also how to make use of the if statement. You know, in Python, yeah, Python is the way you call the if statement is almost similar to other language like C++ or your PHP. But the only difference is just if you want to call else if, but in Python you do else if. So it's equivalent of else if. So please take note of that. Should in case if you forgot another, we did this last time. So if I want to write a simple functions or a simple script to distinguish between directory and non and a file. So I can do this. Let me go to my Python interactive shell and paste the script there. Finally copy this script. Okay. So that's the script. So the first item says if for item in all our current directory, if the item is a file. So as I've said, path dot is fine. You tell us print item is a file. Else, if Python is a directory, print Python is a directory. Sorry, item is a directory. Else print unknown. So if you look at this, so you can display the listing of directory and files and with the right status so that you will not be confused because there are some files that doesn't have extension, to be honest with you. It's not every file that has extension. So even though with the extension you can use and so that's for that. So let's proceed with our next so you can use this to differentiate this simple conditional statement to differentiate between a file and directory. So let's talk about the glob module. The glob modules makes our directory listing to be easy. And if you look at this, and for you to make use of this glob modules, how do you do a directory listing with a glob module? So it's almost similar to the way you just write a simple script, just 2-line script. I will explain this script now. So this the script. So you need to first of all import the module. So you can take your time and play with this script with the glob. So you just make use of a first statement because you want to display the listing of directory. You want to do a directory browsing for a particular path. Say for item in glob.glob. So you use this function os.path.join and you specify the path. So this first the first reference here shows that you are referring to the current directory. And this function tells you that you should display everything, irrespective of the extension, irrespective of the file. So for you to do that, let's switch over to our interactive shell. Okay, I need to import. Let me import the glob module. So remember to enter your return key like twice or 3 times. You can see. But if you do not import the module, you will not be able to call on to display. So you can see that this seems to be neater. So it displays all the. So you want to do the same thing, maybe with your root directory, because you've already imported the module already. Okay, sorry. I didn't print the item right. Let me edit it from my text file. I copy it. So as you can see, it displays the listing of all the items in my root directories. So if I want to display the listing of all every files with .ini extension, so note this. So I only have 2 files with .ini extension. So depend on what you want, because at times if a particular target is vulnerable to directory traversal and you've been able to establish a shell and you can navigate through the directory, you want to be so specific. Your aim might be for you to get some sensitive file. You can just limit your conditional statements so that you won't get too much of you won't waste a lot of the time. So that's how to leverage on the glob module to conduct a directory traversal. So now let's talk about how to clone a process, cloning of a process. So cloning of a process is what we call the forking, F-O-R-K-I-N-G. So I will explain that with this simple script. So definitely before you can clone a process, you also need to import your your the OS command is the OS module. That is very, very important. So let me go to my Kali, and so there is a script that I've written. I will explain the script. First and foremost, if you want to get the PID, uh, uh, the process identifier, you can just type OS dot get PID. So that's the name of the functions. So the current PID here is 19644. So what I want to do here, I want to get the details. I want to clone my current process, and I want to be able to distinguish between a parent ID and a child ID. So for you to get the ID, whether for a parent you use get.pid, how do you know which one is parent ID? So for example, this is a function. I instantiate a function called child_process. So I now do the display. Yes, I use this function always.getPID to display the. So the first line item say you should print I am the child and my PID is whatever PID that it gets. Then you should also print the child is everything. So this is a function to create the parent process. And from here, I print out the function, I am the parent and my PID is this. So this will display the parent, the current PID. So I now declare a variable, and I have the variable to display the fork function, the fork function. So after that, for me to really know whether the process is on the inside the PID, a child a child PID will always be equal to 0. So if this is the case, you should display this function S. If it's not the case, it should print out this. You are inside the parent. So this is a while loop statement that should repeat the process and return the value of parent_process functions. So you can try the scripts. If it's run properly, you can store the scripts in the. You can use any name, but for me, I just use process_script.py for easier of so that because I've written so many scripts so that I can know which one is which. So you can try that on your Kali. I'll give you 5 minutes. While you're trying that, I can also bring up my Kali box. Let me quit this guy. I want to be sure that okay, this has frozen. I need to let's want to be sure where this file is. I'm not sure whether I've created a file on the curly box. I think I have it somewhere here. So you can quickly create that file called using the script displayed on the curly. Having done that, so you can use any name. I need to move to the root directories here, right? So this is the file. So you can use any of these on any of the text editor that you're familiar with. You can use VI, you can use Vim, depending on what you want. You can also try that on your Windows, if the Windows machine. So let me run this command, right? So depend on you can see that you might have different results. So depends. I want you to try it yourself. Depending on the current process that is currently running. So you can see that the display on my window box, sorry, on the presentation is different from it depends on your current process. So that's how to clone the process. So that's the process called forking. Now, if you want to spawn a new process, you can leverage on the exec functions. The exec functions. So these are the various functions. And you can also use this to do an equivalence of you can use this function to create to to initiate different process. For example, how to call in a ping module, maybe ISMP, which is called module, can do that. So let's just quickly do that. You can try that on your either your Windows or your Kali box. First and foremost, make sure that you import your OS. Import the OS first before you can proceed. As you get my so you can use the OS dot exec. Let's leverage on the has a various variant of functions. Let's do the exec VP. So these are to instantiate the functions. So you can see that what this guy does is executing outside the Python process. So it's really uh, you can see that it's doing it equivalent of what you think on a normal OS. So that's how to spawn new process inside your interactive shell. Now let's talk about the sub-process model. How do you want to get the listing of all the sub-process module? So for you to use the sub-process module, you need to first of all import it first. You need to import it. After the importation, so let's go back to our interactive shell here. Okay. Import sub-process. Sorry, I think I've exited the Python module right here, Python shell. So you initiate the function. So PS for you to display the sorry, I think I made a mistake somewhere. Let me check it. So process call right. Let's try it on Kali. I will come back to the Windows. I think something is Okay. So if you look at this display the listing of all the processes we're running, details of all the processes with the PID, with the amount of CPU they've utilized, the amount of memory they've utilized, almost equivalent to your tax manager, what you get, the tax manager. So you need this because as part of your enumeration process, because if you've been able to establish a share maybe to your target, or you have to do get a listing of all this stuff on your targets, you can use that subprocess command. Now, if you want to display the listing of all the files and directories, and you want to get the details of each of those files and directories, you just like the way you use your normal ls-l command on your command prompt, right? So you place your function, you replace the parameters. You can see these are the details of all the listing for that particular directory that we are working on. Only that directories, these are the files that are there on the directory. So you can also try subprocess check output if you want this to be displayed better. You can see. So that's how to leverage on the subprocess module for the enumeration of files.